Okay, so hopefully you can all see my screen right now. Since this is our first class, I'll just ask the class, can anyone see this? I figure if one person can see it, you can all see it. So thank you, Jasmine. I appreciate that. Great. Okay, so let's kind of go over this. I won't spend a lot of time on this because this is nobody's first rodeo. Everybody in this class has taken a chemistry class before in their life. So let's just kind of go over the high points of this syllabus. Now, the main thing I want to talk about to start off with is the whole idea is that the class will be run as a hybrid this summer. So this is kind of a new thing, this whole Dear Student thing. This is just because of the COVID-19 pandemic. It says, hi student, my name is Mr. Dion. I'm going to be your instructor for Introduction to Chemistry 2 or Chemistry 102 this summer. Historically, and this is the 10th time I've taught this class, Introduction to Chemistry 2 has been taught exclusively as a face-to-face course at Pikes Peak Community College, but on account of the COVID-19 pandemic, the course will be taught as a hybrid and that lectures will be completely online, whereas labs will take place face-to-face on Monday and Wednesday evenings at the Rampart Range campus. Please be patient with me as there might be changes to the syllabus and schedule throughout the summer. But if I could give you any advice, if you were my child and you were enrolled in this class, I would tell you to make sure to check D2L at least every day, to make sure to check it at least minimum once a day, if not more. I like to check my Twitter every hour. So I figure if I can check my Twitter every hour, checking D2L once a day is not that difficult of a thing to do. And also, you got to think about this class as being an investment in your future, and you want to protect your investment to the best of your ability. So general course information, the course is, of course, General Chemistry 2 or Introduction to Chemistry 2. It's Chemistry 102 here at PPCC. The important thing is that the lecture days and times, now normally they were slotted for Mondays and Wednesdays starting at 5 p.m. and ending at 7:50 p.m. Now, the problem with that is the logistics of the fact that the lab starts at 8 p.m. So you can see how this really poses a problem if I was going to give you a lecture from my basement of my home, like I am where I am right now, and start at 5 p.m. and end at 7:50. Well, I live more than 10 minutes away from the lab. So you can see how it's going to be very difficult for me to do the lectures completely live as we are doing right now. Now this week, since we're not meeting in the lab, it's no big deal. So what I'm proposing is that most of the videos I will post to YouTube as just pre-recorded videos, and I will post the links to those videos in D2L. And that way you can watch the videos at your leisure, you can pause them, you can watch them 10 times if you want to, and they will cover all of the necessary content. And then we will be able to get to the lab on Monday and Wednesday from 8 to 9:30 p.m. Now, I'll just mention that the lab days, we're going to use those not only for labs, but we will be writing our exams in the lab as well. So not only is the logistics, or are the logistics difficult for me, but you can see how it would be difficult for you as well. Because the whole point behind running the course as a hybrid is that we limit our time on the Rampart Range campus. And if we had to abide by this rule as having our lecture times from 5 to 7:50 p.m., well, that means you would literally have to be at the Rampart Range campus somewhere watching the lecture. So this is why I'm going to try to pre-record most of the YouTube videos. But again, watch for updates on D2L, and maybe some days we could do a live lecture, a short lecture at 5 p.m. or something, and go over some practice problems. But I figure we'll kind of let that happen organically as the summer progresses. Now, tonight is an anomaly again. Since May 27th, since this week there are no labs, I'm going to plan on spending the entire time with you until 7:50, going over some concepts in organic chemistry. The location of our labs is in the Rampart Range campus, is in room W213. Make sure you wear something warm because that room always seems to be kind of a chilly environment. And of course, the class goes from today until August 7th. This is my email down here, so feel free to email me anytime you want. You can even use the D2L messaging feature. And like I said, I check D2L multiple times a day. Another thing that's really important is the drop date. The drop date for this course is on June 4th. And when we get ahead and we look at the schedule, you'll see that I have an exam scheduled on June 3rd, and that is deliberate. That is so that you will get some feedback and you will get a grade on an exam before the drop date. So you will write an exam on June 3rd. So that's not even all that long from now. That's very soon. It's a week from today. And the reason we will write an exam so soon is because we want you to get feedback on the class before the drop date, so that if, God forbid, if you say, well, maybe I don't have the time to do the class, or maybe I need to go back and review general chemistry or introduction to chemistry 1, you will be able to do that. The withdraw date is July 20th. And then there's some more information here about the master course syllabus that you can look at. I've gotten a few emails from students about the required course materials, so let's go over those. The first thing that you need is a copy of our textbook, which is the 10th edition of General Organic and Biological Chemistry by this woman, Catherine Deniston. So the 10th edition is the edition that we are using technically this semester. I will tell you, you can use the 8th edition, you can use the 9th edition. So if you have a friend or a loved one or a sibling maybe who took this class before and has an older version of the textbook, that is perfectly fine. In fact, I will be using lecture slides that I largely used from the 9th edition, but if you've been in college for any amount of time, you know that the differences between a 9th edition and a 10th edition aren't very much. It's basically enough so that they can ask the students to buy it and try to make some more money off of it. Anyhow, what else do you need in this class? You will need a lab manual. So this book here, General Organic and Biological Chemistry Laboratory Experiments by Mary Neely and her friends. This is the lab manual. Okay, so this is the lab manual, and everybody needs a copy of that. Both of these books can be purchased at either the Rampart Range campus or the Centennial campus. Again, I would recommend if you want to try to save some money, you could buy a used copy of the 8th or 9th edition, and it will have every last bit of material that you would ever need for this class. One of the beautiful things about studying chemistry is that chemistry doesn't change a whole lot, right? A carbon atom 10 years ago was the same carbon atom today, right? So even an edition of the book that's several years old will certainly suffice for this class. I went to they didn't have any. Centennial would be best. Thank you for whoever, for Kamish, thank you for telling us. So what Kamish is saying here in the chat is that they went to Rampart Range yesterday and they didn't have any books. So I guess Centennial is our best bet. Why don't we write that down here? So we'll shop at Centennial. I don't blame the college for that. I don't get angry at them over those kinds of things, because right now everything's kind of up in the air with deliveries and such. So great. Thank you for that feedback. So if you want to buy a book, make sure you go into the Centennial campus. Another thing that that you're going to have in these trying times of the COVID-19 pandemic is a reliable internet connection for viewing the lectures that are pre-recorded and posted to YouTube. You're also going to need them for taking some exams. Now I told you that we're going to write our exams in person. So this is, would be if we have to write an exam online. But for our quizzes, which is the same thing as our homework. So this is the same thing as our homework. Homework and quizzes mean the same thing in this class. And for submitting all lab reports, we may submit some lab reports as PDFs. Either way, just, being in college during the pandemic, you're going to need a reliable internet connection. The whole thing in bullet point 4 here about Respondus lockdown browser, I'm going to kind of skip that right now because, it's not really important right now. I'll give you more information about that later on. What else? If I ask you to submit something in a PDF form, you'll need some means of scanning your lab report and converting it into a PDF. Do not worry if you don't have a scanner, because I don't own one either, but I do have an iPhone. And if you have any kind of smartphone, there are literally Avogadro's number of apps that are available for free where you can convert any document into a PDF. Hold on, let me check one thing here. Da-da-da. It's on. So Ashley says the book is only at Centennial for some reason. Hey, what do you? Centennial gets all the candy, I guess. Anyhow, you also need your own pair of laboratory goggles. I think they have goggles in the lab, but again, during the whole COVID-19 thing, I would recommend having your own goggles or safety glasses. I'm going to add here that on Monday night, when you come to the lab, everybody has to wear some kind of face covering. So I'll put here a mask, and I will obviously make an announcement about that. And I'm sure you all assumed that anyway, but I guess you should never assume that people are going to assume, right? So anyhow, hopefully by now you've all logged on to D2L and had a look around our course. At least I hope you have. Anyhow, and that has all the lecture slides posted to it, and we'll take a look at that. So let's talk about grades for a second. And here's how we have the grades broken down for the summer semester. So, oh, there's a typo here. It should say, I should cross this out because that's for the rest of the, that is for the spring semester. So there's 4 exams during the summer semester, 4 exams. And those 4 exams make up half of your entire grade. Then for the labs, I will drop one of your labs. I think there are 12 labs. I'll have to look over that one too and double check on that this evening. But we're going to do a bunch of labs and I will drop one of those. Then your quizzes, which is the same thing as homework. We used to have an old homework system that we don't use anymore. So now our homework is under the quizzes tab in D2L. So quizzes and homework mean the same thing. That's 10%. And then you have a final exam that everybody has to write, which is worth 15%. Okay, and again, I'll update this little typo here tonight and I'll fix that before I go to bed. Here's the course schedule. If I could make one recommendation to all of my students, it would be to wear sunscreen. Hold on, I'm going to turn off the heat in this room. So the first thing would be to print out a copy of the schedule. Okay, everybody should have a copy of the schedule. So if you want to know what date exam 2 is on, well, looky, it's right here in the schedule. Okay, everything is in the schedule. We're going to try to follow the schedule as closely as possible. If the schedule gets away from us or if we're off schedule, I'll let you know. But generally speaking, we're going to try to follow that. So tonight, we're going to try to cover the course introduction, which is what we're doing right now. And we're also going to look at chapter 10. Then on Monday, we're going to talk about chapter 10, finish that up, and we're going to look at chapter 11. But again, I'm going to try to post all of this content to my YouTube channel so that if you want to get ahead, you are free to do that and, learn everything you can way ahead of time so that you'll be well prepared for the exam on June 3rd. All right. This is our tentative lab and exam schedule. So I also put the exams in here as well, just to give you a heads up. So if you're wondering, why did you say this thing about Respondus? Well, initially we had thought about trying to get our students to write their exams over the internet using this thing called Respondus Lockdown Browser that some of you maybe have used in the past, but we are not able to do that. And the reason why, it's a whole departmental thing. Basically, we didn't get the green light to do that. So we're going to write our exams in the lab. So we have exam 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you can see that some of those dates are like, well, how are we going to squeeze in on the 15th of July? How are we going to do an exam and a lab? Wait till we get there and I'll show you how we'll do it. Okay. But on June 1st, make sure you show up with your safety glasses and your mask. And we're going to do the laboratory check-in, safety procedures, and we're also going to do experiment 1, or organic compound properties and reactions. So there you go. That's the whole lab and exam schedule. Okay, so Monday and Wednesday nights we'll be getting together, except for, I guess, July 22nd. I guess we get a bit of a break there. Anyhow. And then the rest of this syllabus, there's a lot of things in here that are FYI for my students, but I would say, first of all, you should attend every class. Now, obviously, this is, a syllabus that I used before for this class because I've taught this class so many times. Now, obviously, we're not going to have a face-to-face lecture, but my recommendation would be to, just to say to put your time in. Organic chemistry is one of those subjects that, in my opinion, there are no concepts that are really, really mega complicated. The thing about organic chemistry is that there are many concepts, okay? It's just that there's a lot of concepts in the class, okay? So my advice would be to try to watch all the videos and do as many practice problems as you can. So it says here to make sure to keep up with lab reports, homework assignments, YouTube videos, okay? And if I could make one major recommendation would be to do the textbook problems. So if you go on our class's D2L page, you'll see that I've posted some suggested problems for chapters 10 and 11, and I would highly recommend doing all of those, not some of those, not half of them, not 90% of them. I would recommend doing all of them before the exam next week. Organic chemistry is a class that requires time, okay? If you need help, feel free to reach out to me by email, or you can talk to me in the lab on Monday and Wednesday nights. Monday and Wednesday nights are probably a really good time. Obviously, the whole thing about electronic devices, we don't have to worry about that a ton this semester. We won't be using those in the lab, though. And then here it says, this part I have it correct. So it says here there will be 4 exams, okay? There's also a comprehensive final. Again, the whole thing about lockdown browser, don't worry about that for now. The homework, again, homework in Chemistry 102 and quizzes mean the same thing. And you're like, well, why do you call them homework if they're quizzes? I don't know. It's just historical. It's just kind of a thing that we haven't really changed in D2L. One of the toughest things about teaching at the college is the letter grading system. So if you've ever taken a class at PPCC before, and I'm sure that many of you have, you know that there's no A minuses and B pluses and those kinds of things. So here's the letter grade range. What else? The institutional syllabus, should you wish to look at that, you can click on the link here. And then I have some information about the drop date and the withdraw date. So you can take a look at that. And then the whole thing about lab procedures, we're going to talk about that mostly on Monday night. We'll get into detail about what we expect, not only in terms of traditional safety in the organic chemistry lab, but in terms of safety during the COVID-19 pandemic. One thing I'll just give you a heads up on is that normally in Chemistry 102, we work in partners, but in this semester, we're going to have to work individually in order to practice good social distancing techniques. And if you're like, oh no, I'm not going to have enough time to do my experiment, don't worry about it. You're going to have enough time to do your experiment. So don't be stressing about that, because I don't mean to sound cliche, but we're all in this together. So we're going to figure that out as we move along. Okay. And again, we'll talk more about that later on, but you can read, some of the things that don't come up a ton in Chemistry 102, because usually Chemistry 102 students, I don't want to generalize, but usually they're quite driven and, they know what they want to do with their life. But if you fail to complete, or if you miss 3 labs or don't turn in 3 lab assignments, you automatically fail the course. So make sure that you just complete all the assignments, complete all your homeworks, complete all the lab reports. I would heavily recommend doing every practice problem that I recommend from all of the chapters, and that would, in my opinion, be the best recipe towards success in Chemistry 102. I mean, again, Chemistry 102 is just one of those classes that requires a large time commitment. There's no way around it. Okay, now let me just show you one quick thing here. Boop. Okay, so here's our class's D2L page. We'll just take a quick peek at this. So you can see up here we have, now I don't know how my Apple Pencil is going to work on this. Anyhow, so I can't use my stylus right now apparently, but I'll just kind of walk you through it. You can see at the top you have course home, content, assignments, discussions, quizzes, whatnot. Well, first of all, in the announcements, you'll see here that tonight I just posted this last announcement. This is Chemistry 102, Chapter 10 YouTube playlist. So every ounce of content from Chapter 10, I have posted to my YouTube channel. In fact, I just finished it tonight. It might not be in the exact same order as the 10th edition of the textbook, but it's pretty damn close, okay? It covers every single thing that you would need to know. So if for whatever reason you want to watch that and rewatch that, feel free to do that. I'm also going to post this lecture to D2L as well. I'll post the link in Microsoft Teams. And again, I'm going to try to keep up with this content the best I can and post all of the content that you need to know for this class to my YouTube channel. You can see down here that I posted another announcement about your Microsoft Teams invitation, and it seems like everybody got that. So that's a very good thing. I also posted a little welcome thing here that hopefully you took a look at yesterday, and you can maybe, take a look at that. The first thing you should do is always print out the syllabus and schedule and pin them up somewhere in your room or your office or wherever you're working at home. And then in terms of getting ready for exam 1 next week, here are the suggested practice problems from chapters 10 and 11. Now these are the practice problems from the 10th edition of Denison, but good news is Mr. Dion has a copy of the 9th and the 10th edition, and I went through both of them, and the numbering on the questions is identical. They didn't change anything, okay? So another proof that new editions of textbooks are a bit of a ripoff. Okay, anyhow, so there we go. So those are announcements. And then in terms of content, so if you click on the content button, that will show you. Now I'm the instructor, so I can see more things than you. So let me see here. Can I go into, let's see here, grade or class list. Let's see. Let's see. I'll impersonate Arnie Aardvark. Here we go. So this is, come on. This is what you guys will see when you get in here. It'll look something like this. So under content, you can see, come on. There we go. You can see the syllabus. It says syllabus 4.0. That's because I've made so many versions of the syllabus until I got one that I was happy with, and I still have to change it. Here are all the lecture slides. So for every chapter, I have the lecture slides posted. Here's the laboratory rules and regulations. Of course, we'll take a look at those. This is a periodic table that I like to give my students for the final exam. There's some other, if you want to get ahead with respect to the first lab, you see where it says lab slides here at the bottom. I put down some notes about that first lab that we're going to do together on Monday. What else is up here? So if you see quizzes, if you click on quizzes, you'll see your first 2 quizzes. So the quiz or the homework for chapter 10 and chapter 11, they are due on June 3rd, or they're going to be open until June 3rd at 11:30 p.m. So those 2 close before the drop date. So that means before the drop date, you'll have to complete what? You'll have to complete homework 10, homework 11, and an exam. So you'll get at least a minimum of 3 grades back before the drop date. So I consider that a good thing. And then I'll set the dates for the other quizzes as we move along. There we go. So that's kind of a little bit of a tour of D2L. And again, you can click on my YouTube channel and view the whole playlist for chapter 10, and I'll make a playlist for chapter 11, so on and so forth. So that just about covers the entire introduction. So just give me 2 shakes of a lamb's tail here. I'll come back to my Microsoft Teams and back to my students. Let's see.